Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. I have always been proud of Emily's success. Seeing her name on the bestseller lists, hearing people talk about her novels with such admiration, it brought a sense of pride that I rarely expressed but deeply felt. Emily, my wife, the famous writer, had a way with words that enchanted thousands. Her fans adored her, and their letters came in droves, enough to fill boxes. For years, I was the one who picked up those boxes from the post office. The sheer volume of fan mail was staggering. Every week, like clockwork, I'd drive over, smile at the clerk who knew me too well, and load the car with Emily's adoration neatly sealed in envelopes. She would read some of them, mostly out of a sense of obligation, but I knew the routine: skim a few lines, offer a polite smile, then tuck them away. Lately, however, something changed. Emily's disinterest in her fan mail had turned into a genuine fascination. I would find her late at night, nestled in her favorite armchair by the window, reading letter after letter. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of emotions that I couldn't quite decipher. It was perplexing and, if I were to admit it, a bit unsettling. One evening, curiosity got the better of me. Emily was in her study, the door closed, a rare occurrence. I wandered into our bedroom, looking for, I wasn't sure what. Answers, perhaps. As I glanced around, my eyes fell upon her closet. Something in me whispered to check inside. I hesitated, but the whisper grew louder, urging me to uncover whatever was hidden there. I opened the closet door and, amid the neatly arranged clothes, found a box. Unlike the others, this one was different, smaller, more personal. With a racing heart, I opened it. Inside were letters, but not just any letters. These were love letters, and not the kind exchanged between husband and wife. My hands trembled as I unfolded the first one. Dearest Emily, I can't wait to see you again. Last night was magical. Every moment with you feels like a dream. Love, Alex. Alex. The name seared into my brain. Letter after letter, the story unfolded: a torrid affair, secret meetings, declarations of love and passion. My wife, my Emily, was having an affair with a fan. Fury boiled inside me. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and enraged all at once. This Alex had stolen my wife, intruded into my life, and I needed to get back at them. Both of them. Emily's footsteps approached, and I quickly replaced the letters, closing the closet just as she entered the room. Her smile was warm, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. Everything okay, honey? She asked, her voice sweet and tender, the voice of the woman I thought I knew. Yeah, I managed to reply, forcing a smile. Just thinking about something for work. She nodded, accepting my lie without question. I'll be in the study if you need me. As she left, I knew what I had to do. Revenge was a dish best served cold, and I had the perfect plan to serve it. I would play the doting husband, the unsuspecting partner, while I plotted their downfall. Emily and her rabid fan wouldn't know what hit them. The next few days were a blur. I kept up appearances, pretending everything was normal, but inside, I was seething. I started gathering information, piecing together their rendezvous, their plans. Emily's behavior became more predictable, and it wasn't long before I had a clear picture of their affair. Then, I made my move. It was a Friday evening when Emily mentioned she was going out to meet her editor, a routine excuse. I knew better. She was meeting Alex. I followed her, keeping a safe distance, until she arrived at a quaint little cafe on the outskirts of town. There he was, waiting for her, his face lighting up as she walked in. My blood boiled, but I kept my cool. I watched them for a while, their laughter, their touches, each one a knife to my heart. Then, I took out my phone and snapped a few pictures. Evidence, for when the time was right. Over the next week, I made subtle moves. Anonymous messages to Alex, suggesting Emily was seeing someone else. Flowers sent to our house, signed with love from a mysterious admirer. Emily started to get anxious, her perfect world showing cracks. Finally, the day came. I confronted Emily with the letters, the photos, the evidence of her betrayal. She was stunned, speechless, her facade crumbling. I let her think I was going to forgive her, that we could work it out. But that was just the beginning. I arranged a meeting with Alex, pretending to be Emily. When he showed up, expecting her, he found me instead. The look on his face was priceless. I told him everything, how I knew, how Emily had deceived us both. He tried to apologize, but I wasn't interested. My revenge was complete when I handed him the photos and told him to stay away from my wife. Emily's career took a hit. Rumors spread, her fans turned on her. Alex disappeared from her life, and she was left to pick up the pieces. As for me, I walked away, leaving the past behind, ready to start anew. Revenge was sweet, but it came at a cost. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by a stranger. But I had my closure, and that was enough. The fallout from my confrontation with Emily leaves a cold, empty space between us. Her once vibrant energy is replaced by a silent resignation, and the house feels more like a mausoleum than a home. But beneath the calm surface, there is a storm brewing. I sense her plotting, and I know I need to stay one step ahead. It's Monday morning when I walk into the kitchen to find Emily sitting at the table, staring at her phone. Her hair is disheveled, her eyes hollow. She looks up at me, and for a moment, I almost feel a pang of guilt. Almost. "Morning," I say, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Morning," she replies, her voice barely a whisper. There's an awkward silence before she finally speaks again. "We need to talk." "Do we?" I reply, keeping my tone icy. "I thought we said everything we needed to." She flinches, and for a moment, I see a flicker of the old Emily, the one who could charm anyone with a smile. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen, you know," she says, tears welling up in her eyes. "It just happened." I want to lash out, to yell, but I hold back. Instead, I sit down across from her and look her straight in the eyes. "Emily, you made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences." Her shoulders slump, and she nods, defeated. "What are we going to do?" she asks, her voice trembling. "We're going to pretend everything is fine," I say firmly. "For now. Until I figure out our next steps." The days pass in a tense truce. I go to work, Emily stays home, and we barely speak. But beneath the surface, I'm planning my next move. I need allies, people who can help me unravel the full extent of Emily's deceit. I start with Emily's best friend, Sarah. She's always been fiercely loyal to Emily, but I sense she knows more than she's letting on. I arrange to meet her for coffee, under the pretense of wanting advice. "Thanks for meeting me," I say, as we sit down at a quiet cafe downtown. Sarah looks at me suspiciously. "What's this about, John?" "I need your help," I say, leaning forward. "It's about Emily." Her eyes narrow. "What about her?" I take a deep breath. "I know she's been seeing someone else. I found the letters. I need to know if you knew anything about it." Sarah's face pales, and she looks away. "I didn't know it was that serious," she admits. "She mentioned someone, but I thought it was just a fling. Nothing more." "Who is he?" I ask, my voice hard. "Alex," she says reluctantly. "I don't know much about him. Just that they met at a book signing a few months ago." I feel a surge of anger. "And you didn't think to tell me?" "I thought she would come to her senses," Sarah says, her voice rising. "I didn't want to get involved." "Well, you're involved now," I say coldly. "I need you to find out everything you can about Alex. Where he lives, what he does. Everything. Sarah nods, clearly shaken. Okay. I'll see what I can do. With Sarah on my side, I feel a glimmer of hope. But I know I need more information. I decide to pay a visit to Emily's editor, Mark. He's always had a soft spot for Emily, and I wonder if he knows more than he's letting on. Mark's office is in a high-rise downtown. I arrive unannounced, hoping to catch him off guard. His assistant looks startled when I walk in, but she lets me through. "John," Mark says, looking up from his desk. "This is a surprise." "I need to talk to you," I say, closing the door behind me. "It's about Emily." Mark's expression hardens. "What about her?" "I know she's been seeing someone," I say bluntly. "I need to know if you knew anything about it." Mark sighs and leans back in his chair. "John, this is really none of my business." "It is when it affects her work," I say. "And our marriage." Mark hesitates, then nods. "All right. I knew she was seeing someone. But I didn't think it was serious. She's been distracted, missing deadlines. I tried to talk to her about it, but she brushed me off." "Did she ever mention his name?" I ask. "Alex," Mark says. "She said he was a fan." That's all I know. I leave Mark's office, my mind racing. Sarah and Mark have given me pieces of the puzzle, but I need more. I decide to visit the cafe where Emily and Alex used to meet. Maybe someone there has seen them together and can give me more information. The cafe is a cozy little place, with warm lighting and comfortable seating. I walk up to the counter and order a coffee, then casually ask the barista if she's seen Emily recently. The barista, a young woman with bright blue hair, nods. "Yeah, she comes in here a lot. Usually with a guy." "Do you know his name?" I ask. "Alex," she says. "They're pretty regulars." "Do you know where he lives?" I ask, trying to sound casual. The barista shakes her head. "Sorry, no idea." I thank her and leave, feeling frustrated. I need to find Alex, to confront him directly. But I have no idea where to start. As I walk back to my car, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Sarah. "John, I found something. Meet me at the park in an hour." My heart races as I drive to the park. Sarah is waiting for me on a bench, looking nervous. "What did you find?" I ask, sitting down beside her. "I did some digging," she says, handing me a piece of paper. "Alex works at a tech company downtown. Here's his address." I look at the paper, my mind racing. "Thank you, Sarah." "Be careful, John," she says, her voice trembling. "I don't want anyone to get hurt." "I'll be careful, I promise," but my mind is already plotting my next move. With Alex's address in hand, I feel a surge of determination. This is my chance to confront him, to make him pay for what he's done. I drive to his apartment, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and anger. The building is a sleek, modern complex, with a doorman and security cameras. I take a deep breath and walk inside, pretending to be calm. The doorman gives me a suspicious look, but I flash him a confident smile and head to the elevator. Alex's apartment is on the 5th floor. I take the stairs, needing the time to gather my thoughts. When I reach his door, I hesitate for a moment, then knock. There's a long silence, and I wonder if he's not home. But then the door opens, and Alex stands there, looking surprised. "John," he says, his voice wary. "What are you doing here?" "I think you know," I say coldly, pushing past him into the apartment. "Hey, wait a minute," he protests, but I ignore him. The apartment is stylish, with modern furniture and art on the walls. It feels like a place where someone who's trying to impress lives. I turn to face Alex, my anger boiling over. "You've been seeing my wife," I say, my voice trembling with rage. You've been sneaking around behind my back. Alex looks pale, but he doesn't deny it. John, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. Save it, I snap. You've ruined my life. Now it's time to pay. What do you mean? Alex asks, his voice shaking. I step closer, my fists clenched. You're going to end this. You're going to stay away from Emily, or I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you are. Alex's eyes widen with fear. All right. I'll stay away. Just, please, don't do anything rash. I take a deep breath, trying to calm myself. You'd better. Because if you come near her again, I won't be so forgiving. I turn and leave the apartment, my heart still pounding. As I drive home, I feel a strange sense of relief. I've confronted Alex, I've made my point. But I know this is far from over. When I get home, Emily is waiting for me. She looks anxious, and I can tell she's been crying. Where were you? She asks, her voice trembling. I went to see Alex, I say bluntly. Her eyes widen with shock. What? Why? I needed to make sure he understands that this is over, I say. For good. Emily looks at me, a mix of fear and sadness in her eyes. John, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I know, I say, my voice softening. But it did. And now we have to figure out where we go from here. She nods, tears streaming down her face. I want to make things right, John. I want us to be okay again. We will be, I say, pulling her into a hug. But it's going to take time. As we stand there, holding each other, I feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to move forward. But I know it won't be easy. There are still secrets to uncover, and a long road ahead. The days that follow are a delicate dance of pretenses and half-truths. Emily and I continue our charade of a normal marriage, but the undercurrent of tension is palpable. We move around each other like strangers, each trying to figure out the next step. I'm not done yet. There's still a gnawing feeling that I haven't uncovered everything. One evening, as Emily is in the shower, her phone buzzes on the nightstand. I glance at it and see a message from an unknown number. Meet me tomorrow at 3. Usual place. My heart races. Despite Alex's promise, it seems Emily is still involved in something secretive. I decide to follow her the next day. The next afternoon, Emily leaves the house dressed in casual clothes, but there's an edge to her movements, a nervous energy she can't hide. I follow her discreetly, my car several blocks behind hers. She heads towards the park, and I keep my distance, parking in a spot where I can see without being seen. Emily sits on a bench near the lake, her eyes scanning the area. After a few minutes, a man approaches. He's tall, with dark hair and an air of confidence. It's not Alex. My mind races. Who is this guy? Emily stands as he approaches, and they hug. It's not a casual hug, but an intimate, lingering embrace. My blood boils as I watch them. Deciding I need to get closer, I leave my car and move through the park, keeping behind the trees. I get close enough to hear snippets of their conversation. I missed you, Emily says, her voice trembling. I missed you too, the man replies, his hand caressing her cheek. Is he still suspicious? Emily nods. He confronted Alex. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The man's expression hardens. We need to be more careful. But we'll be together soon. I promise. My anger reaches a boiling point. It's not just one affair, it's more than that. Emily is tangled up in something much deeper. I decide it's time to confront them. Stepping out from behind the trees, I walk towards them. Emily. I call out, my voice dripping with anger. She spins around, her face pale with shock. "John, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I say, glaring at the man beside her. "Who is this?" The man steps forward, his jaw clenched. "I'm Daniel. And you need to leave, John." Ignoring him, I focus on Emily. "What the hell is going on, Emily? First Alex, and now this guy. How many more are there?" Tears well up in her eyes. "John, I can explain." "Explain?" I shout. "You've been lying to me, cheating on me. There's nothing you can say that will make this right." Daniel steps between us. "Emily, you don't have to explain anything to him. Let's go." "No," I snap, grabbing Emily's arm. "She's not going anywhere until I get some answers." Emily pulls away, her voice breaking. "John, please. This isn't what you think." "Then what is it?" I demand. She looks at Daniel, who nods reluctantly. "Tell him," he says. Taking a deep breath, Emily turns back to me. "John, I met Daniel months ago. It was just a friendship at first, but it turned into something more. I'm sorry, but I love him." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I feel my world crumbling around me. "You love him?" I repeat, incredulous. "Yes," she says softly. "But it's complicated. I didn't mean for this to happen. It just did." Daniel puts his arm around her. "John, you need to move on. Emily and I are together now." Fury surges through me, and I lash out, shoving Daniel. "You think you can just steal my wife and get away with it?" Daniel stumbles back, but quickly regains his balance. "I didn't steal her. She chose me." Before the situation can escalate further, a voice cuts through the tension. "Hey! What's going on here?" We all turn to see a police officer approaching. His hand is on his holstered gun, ready for trouble. "This is a private matter," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. The officer looks at each of us in turn. "It doesn't look very private to me. I suggest you all go your separate ways before someone gets hurt." Reluctantly, I back off. "This isn't over," I say, pointing at Daniel. "Not by a long shot." Emily looks at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. "John, please. Let's talk about this later." Calmly. I nod, but the rage inside me doesn't dissipate. "Fine. Later." As the officer watches, I walk away, my mind spinning with plans. This new development changes everything. Daniel thinks he's won, but he has no idea what I'm capable of. Back at the house, I pace the living room, trying to figure out my next move. I know I need to stay calm, to think clearly. Emily will be home soon, and we'll have that talk. But I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning. When Emily finally comes home, she looks exhausted. She sits down on the couch, her eyes red from crying. "John, we need to talk," she says quietly. "I know," I reply, sitting opposite her. "Start from the beginning. I want to know everything." She takes a deep breath. "I met Daniel at a writers' conference. We connected over our love of literature, and things just escalated. I didn't plan for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. Why didn't you just leave me?" I ask, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Because I still care about you," she says, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to hurt you, and I didn't know how to end things without causing pain." "End things?" I echo. "So, you've decided?" She nods. "I'm sorry, John. I love Daniel. I can't deny that." The finality of her words hits me hard. But amid the pain, a resolve forms. "Fine. You want to be with Daniel? Go ahead. But don't expect me to make this easy for you." She looks at me, her face a mix of guilt and relief. I understand. That night, I lie awake, thinking about everything. Emily's betrayal, Daniel's arrogance, and my next steps. I know I can't let this go. Not yet. Not until they both understand the consequences of their actions. The next morning, I call Sarah. I need your help again, I say. What is it, John? She asks, concern in her voice. I need to find out more about Daniel. Everything about him. Can you do that? There's a pause before she answers. I'll see what I can do. With Sarah's help, I start digging into Daniel's life. His job, his past, his connections. The more I learn, the more I realize that he's not as perfect as he seems. There are skeletons in his closet, and I'm going to use them to my advantage. A few days later, Sarah calls me. John, I found something, she says, her voice urgent. Daniel has a history. He's been involved in some shady business deals. I think you can use this. I feel a surge of triumph. Send me everything you have. As I read through the information Sarah sends, a plan forms in my mind. I'm going to expose Daniel for the fraud he is. I'll make sure Emily sees him for who he truly is, and when it's all over, she'll realize the mistake she's made. I spend the next few days gathering evidence, making sure everything is airtight. Then, I arrange a meeting with Emily and Daniel, pretending I want to discuss the divorce amicably. When they arrive, I'm ready. I lay out the evidence in front of them, watching as their expressions change from confusion to horror. John, what is this? Emily asks, her voice shaking. This, I say, pointing at the documents, is Daniel's true self. The man you think you love is a liar and a cheat. He's been involved in fraud, embezzlement, and God knows what else. Daniel pales, his bravado crumbling. This is a setup, he says weakly. You can't prove any of this. Try me, I say coldly. I have enough evidence to ruin you. And I will, unless you stay away from Emily. Emily looks at Daniel, betrayal in her eyes. Is this true? Daniel doesn't answer, and that's all she needs. She turns to me, her face a mix of pain and gratitude. John, I'm so sorry. Save it, I say, standing up. I want you out of my house by the end of the week. Both of you. As I walk away, I feel a sense of grim satisfaction. I've won, for now. But I know this is far from over. There are still pieces to pick up, battles to fight. And I'm ready for whatever comes next. The next few days are a whirlwind of packing and tense conversations. Emily moves out, and Daniel disappears from our lives. The house feels emptier than ever, but a strange sense of peace settles over me. I've won, but there's still a nagging feeling that something isn't right. One evening, as I'm sorting through old papers, I find a letter addressed to Emily, postmarked from a few months ago. It's from an address I don't recognize. Curiosity gets the better of me, and I open it. Dearest Emily. I'm thrilled that our plan is coming together. John has no idea what's happening, and soon, everything will fall into place. Stay strong, my love. We'll be together soon. Love, Daniel. My heart stops. A plan? What plan? I reread the letter, trying to make sense of it. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. Emily and Daniel's affair, the lies, the manipulation, it was all part of something bigger. I need answers. I call Sarah, my only ally in this twisted game. Sarah, I need to talk to you. Now. An hour later, Sarah arrives, looking worried. John, what's going on? I show her the letter. Did you know about this? Sarah reads the letter, her face paling. No, I didn't. But it explains a lot. What do you mean? I ask, my mind racing. I've been doing some digging on Daniel, she says, handing me a file. It turns out he's not just a fraud. He's a con artist. He targets wealthy women, gets them to fall in love with him, and then disappears with their money. And Emily? I ask, feeling a cold dread settle over me. She was his next target, Sarah says. But it looks like they were planning something bigger. Something that involved you. I feel a surge of anger. They were going to con me. It looks that way, Sarah says. But I don't think Emily was in on it from the start. I think she genuinely fell for him, and he used that to manipulate her. I sit down, trying to process everything. What do we do now? Sarah looks at me, determination in her eyes. We stop him. We expose him for who he is and make sure he pays. We spend the next few days gathering more evidence, tracking Daniel's movements, and planning our next steps. I reach out to a private investigator, a friend of Sarah's, who agrees to help us. Finally, we're ready. We set up a meeting with Daniel, pretending that Emily wants to reconcile. The plan is to record his confession and use it to expose him. The meeting takes place in a secluded park, the same one where I first confronted Emily and Daniel. Sarah and the investigator are hidden nearby, ready to capture everything. Emily arrives first, looking nervous. She's agreed to help us, realizing too late the mistake she made. Daniel arrives a few minutes later, his usual confident self. Emily, he says, smiling. I knew you'd come around. Emily forces a smile. Daniel, we need to talk. What about, he asks, sitting down beside her. About everything, she says, her voice trembling. About your plan. Daniel's smile falters. What plan? Don't play dumb, she says, her voice rising. I know about the con. I know you were planning to use me to get to John's money. Daniel's expression hardens. Who told you that? I found the letter, she says. And I'm not the only one who knows. At that moment, I step out from behind the trees. Hello, Daniel. Daniel stands, his face a mask of anger. John. I should have known. It's over, I say, holding up a recording device. We have everything we need to expose you. Daniel's eyes narrow, and he takes a step towards me. You think you can stop me? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Suddenly, the investigator steps out, a gun in hand. Back off, Daniel. Daniel freezes, his eyes darting between us. You can't do this. Yes, we can, the investigator says. And we will. Daniel's face twists with rage, but he knows he's beaten. He turns to Emily. You'll regret this. No, I won't, she says, her voice steady. I regret ever trusting you. The police arrive a few minutes later, taking Daniel into custody. As he's led away, I feel a weight lift off my shoulders. It's over. The nightmare is finally over. Emily and I stand together, watching as Daniel is taken away. John, she says, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I know, I say, taking her hand. But we'll get through this. Together. The days that follow are a blur of legal proceedings and media attention. Daniel's arrest makes headlines, and the story of his con is revealed to the world. Emily's reputation takes a hit, but she's determined to rebuild her life. One evening, as we're sitting together, she looks at me, tears in her eyes. John, thank you. For everything. I smile, feeling a sense of peace. We're a team, Emily. We always have been. As we move forward, I know there will be challenges, but I'm ready to face them. Together, we'll rebuild our lives and find a new beginning. The past is behind us, and the future is ours to create. In the end, the surprise isn't just the revelation of Daniel's true nature. It's the strength we find in each other, the resilience to overcome betrayal, and the power of forgiveness. Our story isn't over, it's just beginning. And this time, we'll write it together.